I went from only making $9 per hour while working at a car wash to now doing over 6 figures per month in revenue with my clothing brand. And the craziest part of all this is it only took me about 2 years to get to this point. Now, if you're in a similar position that I was back in the day, not knowing where to go in your life and just always feeling like you're down on your luck, I suggest you watch this video and pay very close attention, because I'm gonna let you know the exact things that helped flip the switch for me. Growing up, I didn't have a terrible childhood, but everything I wanted in life, I had to go out and get it on my own. My parents made sure to work hard for me, and I never had to put in on any bills. But if there was anything I wanted myself, such as a new pair of shoes, a new game system, or anything like that, I had to go out, get a job, and work for it. And until I was old enough to work, I just didn't get it. So as soon as I turned 14 years old, I began working at a car wash for only $9 per hour. And that was a very humbling experience for me, because I used to have to stand outside, holding a sign saying $5 car washes, come drive up. And if I wasn't doing that, I was spending my time wiping down walls and just trying to kill time for the next 8 hours. But the good thing was my boss at this job was pretty cool and lenient, which made going to work a little bit easier, but I still hated that job. Especially working during the winters here in Michigan with that ice cold water hitting your hands, it got freezing cold in the car wash. But because I knew as a child, if I ever wanted anything, I had to save up and earn it by myself, this helped me realize not to just blow all of my paychecks, and I usually saved at least 80% of the money I had coming in. Although I did miss out on a lot of fun activities and events during my teenage years in order to go to work and make some money, I do not regret a thing, and I would go back and do it again if I could. Around this time, I also began researching on YouTube on ways I can flip my money and put that money from my 9-to-5 job into a business and really expand it and grow it fast. That's when I came up on the topic of growing an Instagram theme page and selling shoutouts. Now, I'm pretty sure almost everybody watching this video has either heard of it or tried it out before, and I was one of those people, and I actually tried it about 5 times in 5 different niches. The one I ended up having the most success with was a cat page that I grew to about 5,000 followers, but once it got to the point where the followers weren't coming in fast enough and I didn't really have a way that I was gonna monetize it efficiently, I gave up on it. After this, I was back at square one and began working and saving up my paychecks again. Then I stumbled upon the business of creating hats and selling them. Not just any hats, these are custom New Era hats. And I did not know at the time that you had to buy New Era hats in bulk if you wanted to get the official labeling on it. The bulk order for this, if I remember, was around $12,000, and being only 14, 15 years old, I did not have that kind of money. So I instead did what everybody else would do, and I went to AliExpress and tried to buy it from there. Turns out AliExpress does not have any type of quality close to New Era, and the hats came out terrible, and I quickly wasted $300 and gave up on that business as well. After that, I just took a break from working in general in order to just focus on sports and enjoy most of my senior year of high school. At the same time, I knew this would not last forever because I was nowhere near good enough to get my college paid for by playing sports. So I knew if I wanted to go to college and not stress during that time period on paying my tuition and paying for food, I would have to go out and work now and stack up. Once I graduated, that's when I began getting on TikTok a lot, and I found a side hustle called sneaker reselling. Now, sneaker reselling is basically like going on websites like Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, or Mercari, finding shoes for the low and flipping them either in person or back onto those sites. Now, I ended up finding some decent success with this because I always knew a lot about shoes growing up, and so I knew exactly what price points to get them at, that I can clean them and flip them for a good profit. But at the same time, this took a lot of manual labor and time on my end, so this was not something that I knew could get scaled heavily. So I ended up having to go back, get another job, and I got this one as a grocery bagger at Myers. Now, it was a time period when I was sneaker reselling and working my 9-to-5 at the same time, and I felt like I was on top of the moon balling, making about $4,000 to $5,000 a month. But my grocery store job ended up getting terrible when I got moved to a different department and got a boss that I absolutely hated. He was on my back every single day at work, always complaining about something, and that was the point where I knew I could never work a job for the rest of my life because I do not like getting told what to do. So I began researching again for another business I could start, and this is when I stumbled upon clothing brands on YouTube. The first set of videos I watched were for some YouTubers called World and Vision and God is Dope, and I always tuned into their podcast to learn the ins and outs of starting a brand. I actually listened to all their podcasts while I was at work with my AirPods in and on the clock, which might have been part of the reason why he did not like me. So having a goal set in mind, I began to save up almost 100% of each check I made since I was living with my parents still. And I knew that one day all this money money I'm saving up will allow me to quit my job and just focus on whatever business venture I wanted to start. And in this case, I really wanted it to be a clothing brand. Then it got to a point where my boss got completely fed up and he said I either had to stop listening to YouTube videos at work or I had to just quit. And I chose to quit in that moment and just lock in fully on my clothing brand. And at this point, I had absolutely zero sales, $0 made, and about 1,000 followers on Instagram just from posting regular content. There were a lot of emotions built up inside of me with taking a risk like this, because if everything just didn't work out, I would be down at square zero, and all that saving up I just did for over a year would have been worth nothing. But in order to be great in life, I realized you have to take calculated risks, and this was a risk I was 100% willing to take at this young age. So I went and found a graphic designer and a manufacturer and began working on my samples, and they came out perfectly. Once they did, I began posting those on Instagram and TikTok, and surprisingly, my first ever TikTok video sort of blew up and I got around 20,000 views and a whole bunch of comments of people asking when we're releasing it. I was so excited at the time. We didn't have a release date set, but I just told everybody they're dropping next week. So I gave myself a week to learn how to set up a Shopify store, how to take pre-orders, how I was gonna ship out all these orders, how I was gonna talk to the manufacturer. And so that was a lot of pressure built up on me in that time as well. But everything ended up working out for the best, as we ended up doing over $2,000 in our first ever hour of the site being open. This was really the moment in my life where I was the most shocked about how much money you can make online. I always seen people do it. I always seen the Shopify dropshipping videos on YouTube, but it was crazy just seeing it in person, refreshing the screen and seeing $2,000 there, because that was about a month of work for me at the time. This let me know that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. If I really locked in on my goals, I could really be living financially free at a very young age. Knowing this, I began to put in 12-hour work days because I wanted to reach my goal as quickly as possible, and wasn't anything gonna stop me. I began having to ignore a lot of my friends and family members in order to get to this point, but that was a sacrifice I knew I had to make. But all great things must come to an end, and my business quickly dried up after the viral TikTok died down. So I'm back at square one, looking up videos on YouTube, but instead of this time finding a completely new business, I'm finding out ways to market my clothing brand. And that's when I stumbled upon TikTok ads, and I wanted to learn those, but it was so confusing for me, I just quickly shut that down as well. I gave it about a week, and I just decided to myself, I'm not sleeping until I learn how to run these TikTok ads, and I finally got my first campaign set up. I took one of our existing TikTok videos that had about 2,000 views, downloaded it onto my computer, and ran it as my first ever TikTok ad. To my surprise, we began doing a consistent about $700 a day once we started running these TikTok ads almost instantly. This shows the importance of being first to the punch. We were one of the first brands to ever run TikTok ads, so it was a wide open market for us, and we just took over that whole space for a good period of time. Then I started doing more research on how to scale these TikTok ads, and I began doubling my budget almost every single day. It got to a point where I spent $5,000 in one day just on TikTok ads. And I do not recommend this for anybody, because we only had around $7,000 in our bank account and we spent $5,000 in a day on ads. So if anything went wrong, the complete operation was blown out. To our surprise, everything did go good, and we hit our highest day of that month, which was $12,000, and ended up wrapping up our first ever six-figure month and only our second month ever of business. I got a little bit comfortable after that again, and we quickly began to drop back to 70K per month, 40K per month, and even as low as 30K per month with our clothing brand. Once it got to that point, I began panicking again. I started implementing new TikTok ad strategies and got us back up to 100K per month by July and August. I carried this momentum throughout the year, which led us to our first ever Black Friday and having a whole bunch of TikTok ad creatives to test with, and ended up doing our first ever 200K month. And walking into December, which was Christmas season, we ended up doing our biggest month ever, which was over $300,000, by leaning on the fact that everybody wanted to buy Christmas gifts for their family members, and we were a new up-and-coming brand that appealed to a lot of people. It's crazy because this also marked the year anniversary of me getting fired from my job. I made $300,000 in 1 month. This just goes to show that keep grinding and focusing on your goals, and your whole life can change in as little as a year. And to some people, a year might seem like a long time, but you have to realize that year is going to pass you up regardless. So either you can put in the work throughout that year while it passes, or you can sit back and be in the same exact position once again. Now we're currently at the point where we're trying to reach $1 million per month with our clothing brand, and it's crazy to even say numbers like that out loud, knowing I got fired from multiple jobs coming up. I was working for as little as $9 per hour and always doing things that I didn't like, and it didn't seem like it'd ever come to an end. And I always tell people, if I could do it, they can too. I'm a normal person just like you. I'm not a super ad genius or a marketing guru who just knows how to do all these things naturally like some people you can see on YouTube. I had to just go out and study hard on all these topics for hours because it wasn't coming natural to me at first. So I know if I could do it, you you can too. So yeah, that's how I built my 6-figure per month clothing brand. So if you're in a position where you don't know exactly what to do with your life, you're getting tired of the circumstances you're in, and it doesn't seem like you'll ever find a way out, just know if you lock in on your personal goals and really believe in yourself and your vision, you can make it out one day. Just make sure to always save up your money so you're in perfect position when the time comes and you're ready to take a calculated risk. And one more thing, if you already have a clothing brand and you're trying to scale your brand to a point where you're doing 6 figures per month, click that first link in the description and book a call with us. We're trying to bring on a few more people and let them know the exact strategies that we're using to get our brand to not only 6 figures per month, but now to the point of almost doing 7 figures per month. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more.